Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Raising the Curtain. Today is a episode that I am super pumped about, and I hope a lot of you are. I am here with special guest John Poling. John, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
So we are going to be discussing the 2023 year in review of all of the shows that we could accumulate, that we could think of, and kind of give you like a spark note, I guess, of each show, talk about what our favorites were, some standouts, and hopefully expose you to a big old variety of theater in the area. I'm looking at our little spreadsheet here in front of me, and we are going to be touching on 36 shows that happened in the Bloomington Normal area.
And I know all of you cannot see this, but Ashleigh has made a very organized spreadsheet with a synopsis of each show, when they played, the director, and the playwright. So I am quite grateful for that, to have that to refer to.
Everything's color-coded. So it was a good time. But, before we start, if we have anybody who doesn't know you, John, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Who doesn't know John D. Poling?
Who doesn't know John?
Well, I have been part of the Bloomington Normal theater scene for, since 2007, I think. Okay. Joseph with Alan Wilson and Wendy Catoni directing was the first show that I did, yes. And now I've done a ton of shows with different people since that time at Heartland and different places. And then 2 years ago, I started reviewing shows for the Pantograph. Yeah, so now I'm seeing a lot more shows. I already saw a lot of shows to begin with, but now I'm seeing even more shows. And so you have, what did you have, 36 that you wrote down?
36 that I wrote, 36 that I wrote down.
So I had 27 that I wrote down. And I am proud to say, of the 27, I have seen 22 of them. So
there we go.
Yeah,
excellent.
And I will say this to Jimmy Chrisman: I had tickets to see Equus, and that night the performance got canceled. So it would have been 23 that I would have seen. Yeah.
Well, I saw Equus, and we'll get to that. It's one of my favorite shows. Fun fact. But yeah, we'll get there. And then, John, you also do theater outside of Bloomington Normal, don't you?
I did. Well, for a long time, my husband Robert and I, we lived in Clinton, and so I split my theater time between Decatur and Bloomington, and did about half and half shows there. But we moved to Bloomington in 2020, so now I'm mostly Bloomington, although I did do a show in Springfield earlier this year. So
excellent. And John is a director. He acts. I've worked with him twice. I've worked with twice and a half.
Possibly.
I think twice and a half.
I mean, we did Mamma Mia, and we did Cabaret, and what else?
August Osage.
August Osage County. Yeah. So yes.
So and then John has been nice enough to let me try my shot at maybe reviewing a show for the Pantograph, which I'm excited about.
So stay tuned, everybody. Yeah. She will be reviewing 12 Angry Jurors.
I will be. But anyway, all right, let's delve right into it. We are just going to start with January of 2023. First up, it looks like we have Sweat by Lynn Nottage, directed by Len Childers, at Community Players Theater. John, is that one of the shows you were able to see this year?
It was, yes.
Excellent.
And outstanding cast in
I know.
Sweat.
The cast was amazing. I'm a little biased. I was the costume designer for that show.
Oh, well, there we go.
So I am a little biased, but that cast was amazing to work on. For those of you who may not know what Sweat is, I'm going to read you my beautiful little synopsis here. Taking place at a dive bar in Pennsylvania, Sweat portrays a meeting between a parole officer and two ex-convicts, as well as three women who were childhood friends and now work together in the same factory. When layoffs and picket lines begin to chip away at their trust, the friends and themselves pitted against each other in a heart-wrenching fight to stay afloat. Obviously, that's not the whole synopsis, but, we're on time constraints today. But yes, that was directed by Len Childers. I'm going to see if I can think of some cast members off the top of my head. First of all, for me, I think Rich Tenaglia is an amazing actor. He played the role of Stan.
The bartender.
Right. Yeah. He was definitely a standout performance for me in that one. And so was Brooke Moonen.
Yes, I was going to mention Brooke.
Yeah. What did you like about Brooke's performance?
Well, just I don't want to sound cliche, but the authenticity of it. Yes, she really got the character, and I will state, that I auditioned for that show and did not get a role in it, but I saw Brooke's audition, and it was really, really good. So I was not surprised at all that Lynn cast that the way that he did, and she just did an outstanding job.
This was also a little bit of a different show, I thought, for community players to do.
Definitely. The January slot is where they will take some risk and have in the past, right? And Sweat was some gritty material, gritty. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, the January show is probably one of the toughest ones to do because your rehearsal time falls during the holiday season, and plus last year and this year they were kind of sharing the rehearsal time with the holiday show, Holiday on Robin Hood Lane, as well. So it just adds to the challenges of getting a show together.
Exactly. Heartland is doing Clyde's, which is also by Lynn Nottage.
Correct.
And that's
yes.
upcoming. Do you know the dates for that show?
It's their spring show, so I don't know if that would be April or May, but it will be. I think auditions for that will be in February.
Okay,
so, yeah.
Excellent. So I think we can both agree that Sweat was a really well done production.
Yes.
Moving on. So this was a show done with Heartland. Opened February 2nd. It was The Lifespan of a Fact. I'm probably going to botch some of these names. Jeremy Karakin, David Karakin, and David Murrell were the writers, and it was directed by Tom Xerxes?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how to pronounce Tom's last name. So.
I'm so sorry, Tom, if we botched that. So kind of a synopsis for that one was, an intern at a top magazine is given the assignment of a lifetime, fact-checking a masterpiece by a legendary essayist. What the no-nonsense editor means as a simple task becomes a hilarious misadventure when it becomes clear that most of the facts in the essay are embellished, adjusted, or just made up. Facts battle with truth when the intern bucks his instructions and confronts the essayist. I will be honest, I was not able to see Lifespan of a Fact. Were you able to see that one?
Not only once, but twice. I saw it with the cast, and then they had double cast everything with understudies, due to the pandemic and COVID and things. And so then I went back and saw it a couple weeks later with the understudies in the roles as well. So, yeah, and both sets of cast did very well with it. But, yes, another excellent – I didn't see a bad thing at Heartland this season, so another excellent production for them.
Then we had ISU. We typically don't bring in the colleges yet on the podcast, but we thought this might be a good way to start. So ISU did Men on Boats by Jacqueline Bachhaus. It was directed by Maggie Marlin Hess. 10 Explorers, 4 Boats, 1 Grand Canyon. Men on Boats is the true-ish story of an 1869 expedition when a one-armed captain and a crew of insane yet loyal volunteers set out to chart the course of the Colorado River. I was not expecting to like this show as much as I did.
I was going to say, I liked this show a lot.
Yeah. So when I was in grad school, one of my parts of my assistantship was actually teaching the play to non-majors, and this was one of the plays I had to teach. And the amount of history and research I did into it sounded very appealing. I love history and stuff like that. But what Maggie did with this show, I was very impressed by. It held my attention. I enjoyed I'm going to call it choreography because there was so much movement going on with it. What did you think?
Yes, I would give props to Maggie Marlin Hess, who was the director of it, because a lot of it takes place basically on the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. So you could imagine trying to stage a play that is taking place on a river in the Grand Canyon and how you would do that. And she did that exceptionally well. The cast was exceptional. And the play is done in that all the actors, all the characters are either female or non-binary. Right. So it's a really interesting kind of take on, kind of the great American Western story, if you will, instead of old dead white men, right? Women,
exactly.
in the roles.
And I think it's also great to mention, too, on that note, the script is written that way. It is written that all of the actors are supposed to be played by women or non-gender identifying individuals. Right. That wasn't a choice Maggie made. It is written in the script like that. And yeah, I think you said it perfectly. It's definitely a great way to really bring women into history. And maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much, getting to see, women not being just played as damsels in distresses.
It was just a super entertaining play.
It was.
I really enjoyed it.
I really loved it. Next up, shortly after Men on Boats, we had Much Ado About Nothing, directed by Thomas Quinn. Obviously, William Shakespeare. Don't know if I need to say that, but Much Ado About Nothing, William Shakespeare. And that was performed at Wesleyan. I am the worst. I told John this before we started. I need to start seeing more shows at Wesleyan because I unfortunately have not been able to see a production there recently.
I did not see it either. We did discuss that Thomas Quinn directed it, and
so
he is a local legend.
Yes, so it has to be good.
And I've seen him in multiple things at
Excellent.
the Shakespeare Festival. So he is a very good actor as well.
So that is, New Year's resolution for me is go see more Wesleyan theater. So when we come back, next December and review it, we'll have more to say about Wesleyan. And then after that, we had Hansel and Gretel by Engelbert Humperdinck. That one was directed by Dr. Matthew Valla at ISU. If you kind of know the story of Hansel and Gretel, the fairy tale, but Engelbert Humperdinck's, that's really hard to say.
It is.
Delightful and family-friendly opera, Hansel and Gretel, based on the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, is a perennial favorite enjoyed by audiences both young and old throughout the world. Corey Ellison's spirited English singing translation of the opera now offers companies a fresh take on the classic work. What did you think of the show?
I have to admit, it was one of the few that I did not see this year.
Okay.
So, but Matthew Valla shows up on another one of my favorite shows, favorite musicals I saw this year. So he's coming up.
Yes. So I did see it, and I have to give a shout out to Mary Jungles Goodyear, who was the scenic designer, and that set was absolutely phenomenal. It was so gorgeous, so entrancing. It was very nice to see an opera done on the stage. The set blew me away. They did double cast that show as well. It was a good mix of theater and music majors, so it was kind of nice to see the two schools collaborate that way. But it was very ethereal and dreamlike, and I cannot remember who the costume designer was, but it was gorgeous.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. Up next, in March, so the second show that happened this year in March was Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, directed by Jessa Hendricker. We all know the story of Cinderella, but this particular one revolves around a young woman forced into a life of servitude by her cruel stepmother. Ella is her name. Dreams of a better life, and with the help of her fairy godmother Marie, she is transformed into a strikingly beautiful lady and attends the ball to meet her prince. Not only does she get her happy ending, she also opens the prince's eyes to the injustice in the kingdom. Your thoughts, John?
I hate to admit it again, but I was doing a show that month,
fair
so
enough.
I did not see Cinderella, so
Okay.
I don't have
Too much
thoughts.
So, I want to give a shout out to Jessa because she had directed the Miscast Cabaret at Community Players kind of right when they were coming back from COVID. And this was kind of her first real big directing thing over at Community Players. I'm so sorry, Jessa. I'm not sure what you've directed in the past elsewhere. But I mean, Cinderella is a really big undertaking to take on.
Definitely.
Lots of new faces were seen on stage. New people on the staff, which we loved. Claire Clausing, who played Ella, and Travion Campbell, who played Prince Topher. I'm trying to think of who else was in it. Erica O'Neill played the role of Marie, the godmother. And Carrie Ann Dixon was the set designer. And her ability to make it look like, to take you from Ella's house to the castle, to keep you in the forest with some really big set pieces. Just brought the whole thing together. I will admit, I worked at the box office most nights of that show, and unfortunately, the only way I was able to view it was through the monitors in the lobby. So I'm sure there were wonderful things that I missed, but if you saw Cinderella, let us know your thoughts.
Oh, and let me just say this about Claire. She is phenomenally talented.
She is.
I went to the holiday on Robin Hood Lane last year, 2022, and She came out and did a solo like on the piano or something like that. I was like, oh my God, she's very. And then she and Duncan Borkholder did kind of an updated version of Baby It's Cold Outside. They were just so great. I was like, Claire, she just blew my socks off.
Yeah.
You know?
I've gotten to work with Claire a few times. Mamma Mia. Not with her in Cinderella, but she was also in my production of Jesus Christ Superstar. And she is just the sweetest individual to work with. So talented, and she just keeps getting better every time I see her.
Yes, that's it. She just keeps growing.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we want for an actress. It's amazing. Next, we had 10 Types by Andy Kreese.
Yes.
And that, too, was done at Illinois Wesleyan.
Well, this one I did see, and it was really, really good. Andy did an exceptional job directing it. 10 Types, it's kind of a musical review. There's not really a strong story to it. Of kind of ragtime songs, turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, and then it mixes in some real life characters, Emma Goldman and Teddy Roosevelt and things. Cool. And I know that he got it updated a little bit. It was a hit back in the 1980s when it first came out, and it's not done a lot. And I don't know what. I know he told me that he had to get some permission for changing some things in it. But it was in the black box at Wesleyan, which is the Melba Johnson Theater. Really, really a good show. Back in March, I think I saw that.
Yeah, there was a lot that actually happened in March this year. The Holiday Spectacular Incorporated is the technical name of the organization, but they also put on Broadway to Bloomington, which happened in March. And Broadway to Bloomington is, I think, just a great way for people to be able to showcase their talents who are super involved with the community theater aspect, especially those involved with the Holiday Spectacular. So I know performers like Kristen Monson, and I've seen Jennifer Rusk out there. I was not able to see it this past year. I was doing another show, and I got the list. Oh, I was doing a show at one of the high schools. So there was some overlap, and I unfortunately was not able to see it. But that's always a good time to go see. It's just
I believe, showcase. I could be wrong, but I believe our own Laurie Adams does a song. Yeah,
really?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah,
excellent. Yeah. We need to see Laurie on stage more. I'm convinced. And then after that, at Heartland, we had Tiny Beautiful Things that opened the last weekend of March. I'm going to backtrack here real quick because that was 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be the 5th, and we have one more that went up in March. So 6 shows in total went up in March.
There are several months, March and October, November, where there's just a lot of stuff going on.
And I'm over here trying to get the dates all put in place. So March 30th opened Tiny Beautiful Things by Nia. I should have practiced these names.
Nia Vardalos. She's the one that did My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes. That was it. And that was directed by Don Lacasse, based on the best-selling book by Cheryl Strayed. Tiny Beautiful Things follows the relationships between an anonymous advice columnist named Sugar and the many real-life readers who pour out their hearts to her. Was it Devin Lovell?
She did. She played Sugar, and she did just a beautiful job with that part. It's a very challenging role because some stuff happens to that character, to Sugar, that she conveys to the audience, and as an audience member, it's difficult to hear it, to take it in. Kind of as an actor, as a character, to tell the audience that has to be hard. And
there were 3 other actors in that show, I believe. Sean
and Noe, and I can't think of the third. There was a young woman. Can't think of her name.
I cannot think of her name either. You kind of touched base on it about the plot, but what else did you enjoy about the show?
It's just very intimate, which is, of course, what Heartland does, right? Yeah, exactly. But Don's direction was just wonderful, and he really understands that thrust space and how you have got to do the blocking and get the characters moving around so that everybody is seeing them and everybody in the audience is able to participate, because otherwise if you keep them static and stuff, it is so frustrating
Right.
to certain, sides of the theater. Like, oh, their back is to me all the time,
Right. That
But
is very
Don gets
frustrating.
it, right?
Yeah.
And Don knows how to.
He's got that good 360
Right. He
eye.
knows how. Sandy Zielinski is another person, knows how to direct in that space really well.
I'm going to move on to the last show that happened in March, which was Equus by Peter Schaefer, directed by Jimmy Chrisman. I know you had mentioned that you were not able to see it. Dr. Martin Dessart, a psychiatrist who is confronted with Alan Strang, a boy who has blinded 6 horses in a violent fit of passion. This very passion is a foreign to Dr. Dessart as the act itself. To the boy's parents, it is a hideous mystery. Alan has always adored horses. To Dessart, it is a psychological puzzle that leads both doctor and patient to a complex and disturbingly dramatic confrontation. I am going to say this here. If there are any young children listening, I am going to touch on a couple of topics you may not want them to hear. So yes, this story does center around a boy named Alan who is just kind of lost in the world, it seems like. Ryan Rank played the role of Alan, and Renzo. I can't think of.
Yes, well, I'm going to mention him with Addams Family.
Yes.
So, Renzo Vicente.
Yes. Thank you. I'm like, Renzo, I know your name. They played the role of Dessart, and the amount of emotional growth that those two had to have, not only with each other but within themselves, was some beautiful acting. And to have college students do that, I was thoroughly impressed with both of their performances. The show does contain full frontal nudity. I do think the lighting designer and Jimmy's blocking did it very subtly, where all of the actors did appear comfortable on stage. Going into this show, so I'll back up a little bit here, but most people know this show because Daniel Radcliffe was in it on Broadway.
Right.
And there were a lot of photos of him circulating. I have to give a shout out to ISU because they had these pouches. When you walked in the door, you had to put your phone in there, and they were locked to make sure all of the actors and everyone were comfortable. But it was beautifully done. It is one of my favorite shows. And if anyone has the chance to go see it, I highly recommend.
Well, thanks. You're making me feel worse about the fact that I didn't see it.
Well, we can't control the weather.
No,
John,
we cannot.
But yes, shout out to Jimmy. I think you did a beautiful job with that. And it was a piece to really try and maintain. So, let's hop on over to April. So we had This Bitter Earth. And I'm forgetting what my own color codes were. This Bitter Earth. That was Coalescence.
Coalescence, yes.
Perfect. And that was written by Harrison David Rivers and directed by George Jackson III. Here's a little synopsis for you. Neil is a handsome, wealthy white man who is a passionate advocate for civil rights. Jesse is an introspective black playwright coming to terms with his own activism. As racial tensions mount with the extrajudicial killings of black men throughout the country, the young couple is forced to contend with the politics of their love. This timely story is a haunting reminder of the strength it takes to love out loud, produced in partnership with Prairie Pride Coalition. Did you have a chance to see this show?
I did. And a shout out to Dave Bentland and Prairie Pride Coalition for co-sponsoring it. And the scene partner work with Nolan Rice and Marshawn Bingham was just really, really lovely in this. And then as well as Carla Bailey Smith's set design was very nice as well. So overall, just a very good production.
Then we will go back to ISU for Murder on the Orient Express. Let me rephrase. Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express by Ken Ludwig. And that was directed by John Tovar. I'm sure a lot of people who have probably heard the name of the show before. But just after midnight, a snowdrift stops the Orient Express in its tracks. The luxurious train is surprisingly full for the time of year, but by the morning, it is one passenger fewer. An American tycoon lies dead. Spoiler alert. An American tycoon lies dead in his compartment, stabbed 8 times, his door locked from the inside. Isolated and with a killer in their midst, the passengers rely on Detective, I'm going to botch this, Hercule Poirot. Thank you. It's very French, and I don't claim to do a French accent.
I think Belgian, actually, is what it's.
Oh, is he Belgian?
He's Belgian, yes.
I am not either of those. To identify the murder in case he or she decides to strike again. Did you see this show, John?
I saw it, loved it. It was a great production.
It was beautiful. And I believe it was Stephen Menard who was the costume designer, and Michael Mason who was the set designer, and that train blew me away. So incredible.
And then in the costume design, they use a certain kind of... I looked it up from my review. I can't remember the name of the blue that they used.
It was very... I don't want to call it a peacock blue.
It was so cool.
It was,
yes.
It was great. And each individual character, the cohesion of everything. And I am lucky enough to be friends with a lot of the people who were in that show. Had classes with them. Victor Wilson Miller, who played Perot. Thank you. Nate Douglas, who played the tycoon. I'm blanking on his name. Also, Matt Tenney, who was in Fairview. Riley Parton, who was in Fairview. Jacob Williamson. I could go on and name all these people. Riley Dorner, Leila Wilgemuth. I'll just stop there.
Well, it was truly an ensemble piece. And part of the reason
Everyone
I loved it so much was several years ago, Agatha Christie's estate gave the commission to Ken Ludwig to rewrite this or whatever as a play, and there's so much humor in it.
Yes.
And so it's not only just a kind of like whodunit, but it's a really funny whodunit, and then just combine it with Tovar's direction and that awesome train, and it was, for me, it was one of the best straight plays of the season that I saw.
Oh, I completely agree. I was blown away by that performance, by all of them, the direction, I wish you all could have seen Michael's train, because when that thing moved,
it was great. Yes.
Oh my God, it was so great. So bravo, Murder on the Orient Express. Let's hop on down to May here. We're going to go back to community players with Puffs, or 7 Increasingly Eventful Years at a Certain School of Magic and Magic, written by Matt Cox and directed by Brett Catoni. I, too, was the costume designer for this show. So, again, a little bit of bias, but what were your thoughts?
I liked the production. I will say this. To me, and I know, and I don't know, is it Cornstalk Winter Playhouse? I mean, somebody's getting ready to do it right now.
Yes, they are. And
they will tell you, you don't have to know Harry Potter or be a big Harry Potter fan to enjoy this show. I will tell you, as someone who... My familiarity with Harry Potter was the movies, because my husband dragged me to the movies. So I had some familiarity. Okay.
Yes.
But that was it, right? I never read the books or anything like that. And I will just say that nothing against the production. Brett's direction was fine. But a lot of the stuff just went over my head. I just didn't understand it because I didn't know enough about Harry Potter to really enjoy the show.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. So I'm obviously the generation of Harry Potter.
Right.
I read the books. I saw the movies, midnight premieres. When there's nothing on TV, put on Prisoner of Azkaban, right? I've talked to a lot of people who were like, the production was great, but I was confused on this part. And one thing I'm going to be really interested to see with Cornstalk is it is traditionally cast with 10 to 11 people playing, I want to say, close to 100, if not over 100 different parts.
Oh, my God.
And Cornstalk actually broke those down and cast. It's a big cast for Cornstalk.
Wow.
I can say from a costume perspective, I had to know every single character, who was playing every single character, and it's so much as we're going from, I'm going to try and use their actual names in the script, but going from Professor Sprouty to Runes Teach on stage with a scarf. It is a very high moving, fast show.
For sure.
You have to have very skilled actors knowing entrances, exits, who they're playing when. Everyone's timing has to be on point. I do want to give a shout out real quick to Jennifer Bethman, who was the props designer for that show, and her Dementor that she created. I think it was a Dementor. Excuse me if I'm wrong on that. The first time I saw it, I jumped a little bit. But it was so cool to see how all of that came together.
I would just say, like, to certain actors like Sam Willis.
Yeah.
The whole cast did a great job. But I would just say Sam Willis stands out to me. Kayla Joel Pulliam Mendoza stands out to me.
Yes.
And then I think Shireen.
Shireen Bannigan.
Yeah, she played several different roles, but she played Harry Potter.
She did.
And she was very cute as Harry Potter. Yeah.
She played, so Susie was her character name. She also transitioned into the role of Harry. I think my favorite part of that show, and it's probably a little detail nobody noticed, but if you've seen Goblet of Fire, they make these Potter Sucks pins to go against Cedric Diggory. And I made little buttons that said, "Go Cedric" with Hassan's face and "Harry Sucks" with Shireen's face. They were the little tiniest thing, but I had so much fun with it. So yeah, I'm planning on going to see it at Cornstalk because I would really like to see how they do it with so many people and the traffic flow and everything like that.
I think Trisha Bagby is in it.
I think she is too. Is she?
She said,
make it?
I don't know who she is in it, but she said today, like on Facebook, she said, "I haven't been this excited about a show for 2 years or something."
Oh,
and she's doing shows all the time, so
is.
that is saying something that that she's the most excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
About this one.
No, I'm excited to see it. I mean, it's so great to me when we can see the same show but done differently and really see a director's take on it.
And in this area, that can happen a lot.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right, let's jump on down here to... Oh, no, I scrolled too far.
Oh, no.
I'm failing today. So we're actually Heartland and their 10-minute play festival. So not, a full-length play that we can pull off of a shelf, but their 10-minute play festival this year was titled The Waiting Room. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's 8 different shows?
I think 8.
I think it's 8.
I think it's 8.
But those were directed by Darlene Lloyd, Rich Tenaglia, Linda Reddick, and is it Jason Vales? Jason Vallis?
Vales, I
Vales?
think.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
perfect.
so, yeah.
Heartland, I think, is not only known for doing those intimate shows like you touched base on, but a lot of like workshopping shows. I know they just completed the plays The Thing with Pamela Morgan.
Yep.
And the 10-minute play festival, I think, is wonderful because I learned from my interview with Reese and Gail, I did not realize it was an international competition.
Well, and this past year was insane because of COVID. They got something like over 600 entries,
That's
which
amazing.
a normal time is like 300. You're doing really, really well,
Yeah.
right? So double that. And, to have to go through all those plays.
Yeah.
Shout out to the play reading committee.
Yeah,
for 10-minute
seriously.
plays.
That's incredible. And then we had the Town of Normal Summer Youth Theater. So I should preface, Waiting Room did go up in June. Puffs was the end of May. But also in June, we had the Town of Normal Youth Theater with High School Musical. And that was directed by Kristen Monson. Guess who costumed it? I did. So again, I'm a little biased. Did you have a chance to see that?
I did not.
Okay.
Apologies, Kristen. I did not see High School Musical.
It was... So again, I'm generation of High School Musical, Shout out to Zac Efron. But it always amazes me. And I do stuff with some of the local high schools. But it always amazes me the talent that the students in this community have.
Yes.
And I will say I am coming back for this upcoming summer as the costume designer, and I'm super excited to announce the show. It's probably going to be one of the hardest shows I've ever had to costume, but it's going to be real good. And then...
Wait, so you're super excited to announce it, but you're not going to announce the title of it? Is that what you're saying?
I cannot announce it right now because it hasn't
okay.
been...
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. She cannot tell us the title.
I cannot
of
tell
it
right
right
now. Sorry. No,
That's called a teaser, everybody.
Yes. I believe we have a meeting in a couple of weeks for it, and I think it's probably going to be getting announced the end of January.
All right.
So yeah, keep your ears out for that one.
Stay tuned, as they say.
Exactly. And then, you know what? Let's take a pause here real quick. I think this is a good stopping point for us right now. We're not done with the interview, but we have gone through 15 shows so far. And I don't want to, just keep going down a list here. Of those shows that we talked about, John, do you have a favorite or a top one or two?
Yes. Well, I picked of each. I had 4 categories, right? And I did straight play for the community theater, straight play for college, and then a musical for community theater, a musical theater for college. So we have touched upon my my straight play for college, because my first runner-up for the best straight play that I saw this season was A Men on Boats at ISU production, and then the best one that I enjoyed, which you probably already have figured out, was Murder on the Orient Express with ISU's production of that. Excellent. So, and I think that's it right now. Everything else is coming up in our second half of the program.
I definitely think I have to agree with you with Murder on the Orient Express. That was definitely one of my highlights.
And I will say to Jimmy that had I seen Equus, it probably would be there in the top 1 or 2, but I just didn't see it.
No, and that's perfectly fair. Right. And yeah, I think on that note, I loved Men on Boats. I really did, but again, Equus is one of my favorite shows, and I thought Jimmy did the script justice really, really well.
And then turned around and in, I think, September, did something completely opposite with Princess Fearless.
Yes.
What range, Jimmy? What range?
Epic range, Jimmy. All right. Let's move on here. So we're kind of going to go in a bit of a gray area here on if we want to consider it community theater or if we want to consider it collegiate. But let's talk a little bit about the Illinois Shakespeare Festival while we're in the summer. So, first one that opened was The Comedy of Errors, William Shakespeare, obviously, directed by Doug Finlayson, I believe is his name. I'm not going to give you the synopsis of Comedy of Errors. You can Google that. Did you have a chance to see Comedy of Errors?
I saw all 3 productions this
excellent.
season. Yes.
I unfortunately only saw one. This was not one of them. So what did you think of Comedy of Errors?
Of the 2 Shakespeare plays, it was my favorite this summer.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was a great production. Love the costume design. Love the set design. Just love the overall just kind of frivolity that they had with the production. It just really enjoyable. And there's just something about watching it on a nice summer's night outside that just enhances it all, makes it even better. So yeah, it was a great production.
Good. So let's we'll go to the next Shakespeare real quick. They also did The Tempest, and that was directed by Chris Anthony. What did you think of that one?
I liked it. Heavy. I mean, it's like comparing apples and oranges, right? Tragedy to comedy kind of thing. And I enjoyed it, but not as much as I enjoyed, Comedy of Errors. Yeah.
Perfect. And then, first of all, I'm a big Lauren Gunderson fan. So the other show that they did was The Book of Will by Lauren Gunderson, directed by Laurie Adams.
Exceptional production. Yes. And I know it's no accident that they picked this one because this year was the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's First Folio.
Yes.
And the play is so important because it tells the story of 2 actors who said, we need to get all of Will's plays in one thing, right? Because they didn't have that, and he had passed away already.
Right.
And there are literally like 18 of his most famous plays that probably would have been lost to history had these men not done that. And it's just also just a very entertaining play. And Karen Sternberg was one of the professional actors that they brought in this year. She was in all 3 of the productions, and she did a fantastic job in Book of Will, and played a couple of roles, but one was Shakespeare's widow, which was really good.
Excellent. I loved the Book of Will. I didn't even know the show existed until they announced it, and I started doing research on it, and I was like, this is real intriguing. So yeah, while in the summer, we also had another one of Holiday Spectaculars, kind of annual traditions, I guess we can call it. With
Celebrate America. Let's celebrate.
We got an exclusive song by John Poling, everyone.
I will have everyone know that I was in the very first Celebrate America, which I think was the summer of 2006.
Oh,
and we had tornadoes the first night we were doing it. So yeah, there was that.
The tornado, we got to keep it going.
Came through Miller Park. I'm not kidding you.
That's insane.
Yeah, they had to cancel the first night.
My gosh. Yeah. That too was directed by Laurie Adams. So look at Laurie directing 2 shows over the summer. Good for her. So I did not. I've seen it before. I did not get a chance to see it this year. Were you able to see it
I
this
have
year?
not seen it for several years, but
Okay.
I see the pictures on Facebook.
I know the pictures
it
always
looks
look
great.
I was joking with Marsha when I was interviewing her. I'm like, I'm going to audition just so I can wear a pretty blue ball gown.
Well, I was going to say, Marsha can't afford not to do it because, like, it's like a holiday spectacular. She's got so much invested in these costumes,
Yeah.
and it's like, what is she going to do with them?
It was incredible interviewing her because we were in the basement of, I can't think of what the building's called. It's that building right behind the BCPA.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. But we were down there in kind of like their costume stock, and the amount of red and green and blue,
it's crazy,
and
ain't it?
Silver in one area is just amazing. So I'm literally thinking about auditioning for it this upcoming year, just because I haven't been on stage since Cabaret. And
I've done holiday spec several times. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds cliche, like they talk about we're a family, but you actually really kind of are a family for that season anyway that you do it.
Absolutely. So then let's kind of go to our third to last show that I would say kind of closed out the summer. Community Players production of Disney's Newsies, directed by Marcia Weiss, music and lyrics by Alan Menken, Jack Feldman, and book by Harvey Fierstein. Thoughts on Newsies, John?
Well, I'll have to admit, I did not see it till the second weekend. And, social media had hyped it up, right? And so a lot of times when I go see those kind of shows, they're kind of overhyped.
Sure.
And then you're like, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. Newsies, Marsha, I will tell you, was even better than I thought it was going to be, and there was a lot to live up to in that. So it was an exceptional production. Marsha did a great job. Shout out to Alex Lovell on choreography.
Oh my gosh, that choreography.
And Ben Sims on vocal direction. I mean, it was just a fantastic ensemble.
Yeah. I have seen a lot of Alex's choreography. I've done a lot of Alex's choreography, and this is probably some of the best work I have ever seen her do. And the fact that they got that many people to be able to pull off the tap routine, the flips, the double cartwheels. Bravo, Alex. Did you by chance see the OG cast, or did you see the understudies?
I think I saw the OG cast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I saw the I don't know if it was the second Friday or second Saturday performance of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, so the original cast was Justin Mabry as Jack Kelly and Megan McDillon as Catherine Plummer. Latricia Green was Meta Larkin. I think Larkin's her last
Yes,
name.
all those are familiar to me, yes.
And then, of course, they had understudy performances. And let me tell you, if you saw the understudy performances, you were in for a treat, because a lot of us in the community have known Malia Hauck since she was a very little kid. And the vocals that come out of her are absolutely insane. And I believe, I'm not sure if she's studying musical theater or vocal performance.
But she should be if she's
be.
not.
But she's at the Berklee Conservatory, so I know she's...
Well, I'm guessing she is.
Yeah, so she's doing something in that field. But yeah, and then also... Oh, I know his name. What is his name? He played Hansel in Hansel and Gretel. He was also Pugsley in Addams Family.
Oh, I know what actor you're talking about, but I don't know his name.
No. Oh, he was an ISU student. What is his name? I'll think of it. I'm so sorry. I know exactly who you are. But he was Jack Kelly's understudy, and we'll think of it when we get to Addams Family, hopefully. And then next up, we had Bright Star, done with Prairie Fire Theater. Steve Martin and Edie Brickell. I can never say that last name. And then directed by Scott Susan. I, unfortunately, was not able to see this because it ran identical to Once on This Island, which I was involved with. But I love the music of Bright Star, and I love the show.
It was a great production. Scott really did a very, very good job. And the set design was really good. They had kind of a utilitarian kind of structure that served as a barn and served as a house and stuff, and they would move it around kind of as, depending on the scene. And then they had the orchestra. Well, I would say more like kind of a band, but they actually did not have them all together. They had two or three kind of in stage right, two or three stage left, two or three front center kind of thing, and it was just really good. If I had one thing that I would improve, I don't think it was mic'd. And there was at least one lead actor that it would have helped had it been mic'd for them. But great production, and Scott shows up on a couple of my best of for the for the year.
Excellent. No, but yeah, if you've never listened to the music of Bright Star, just listen to it. So on that same note,
Andrew Short was the understudy.
Andrew Short, thank you, Eli.
And Andrew Short, I won't forget the leather pants that you were wearing as Pugsley in Addams Family.
Thank you, Eli. Coming in clutch. Andrew Short, I'm so sorry, Andrew. He was one of the Hansels in Hansel and Gretel. He was the understudy for Jack Kelly in Newsies, and we will get to him as Pugsley in Addams Family.
Yes.
Andrew's been, doing a lot of theater this year. So again, on that same time frame, we had Once on This Island, which was produced by Coalescence Theater Project. It is by Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, directed by Elaine McCoy Hill. I was also the costume designer. If you don't know anything about Once on This Island, it is a gorgeous production. It's a gorgeous show. Not something I don't think we've seen in this community for quite some time, anything sort of like it. So let me give you a little bit of a synopsis here. But once on a golden and verdant Caribbean island, a little girl is rescued from a disastrous storm by 4 gods: Asaka, mother of the earth; Agwe, god of water; Azuli, goddess of love; and Papagay, demon of death. So starts the myth told in this breathtaking story of joy and sorrow, the aftermath of colonization and isolation, and the triumph of love against all forces. Were you able to see this one?
I did see this one, yes.
I should also say this was done at the Connie Link Amphitheater. So thank you, Town of Normal, for allowing Coalescence to use the space for this production. What were your thoughts on it? No pressure that I'm here. Seriously.
There was a lot of enthusiasm in the production.
There was.
So, yeah. That's what I'll say.
Okay, excellent. We did have a lot of sound issues with that show, I will admit. That show, I think it's great, the story we told. Unfortunately, there was just some issues that we unfortunately couldn't avoid. But I do think it was a learning experience for a lot of people. And I just hope...
I will say the sound was a shame. That was the biggest issue for me. Yeah.
And... yeah, I agree with you. We had mic issues, and that's what comes with live theater. I hope if you saw the show, you were able to feel those emotions and the story to the best of your ability with what you were able to see.
The audience, the night I saw it, was very receptive to it. So, yes.
Good. I said that one was going to kind of close out the summer, so our kind of transition one here is Grand Horizons, which was written by Bess Wohl and directed by Cindy Brown at Heartland.
I liked that show a lot. Good. Yes, but I tend to lean towards comedies. I mean, if they're done well, and this was a comedy that was. I mean, it had serious elements to it. Absolutely, right. Mm-hmm. It's a couple that's married for 50 years, and in the first 5 minutes of the play, they announce they're both just over it and ready to get a divorce, and then the rest of the play deals with what happens, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of very funny, parts to it, and Carolyn Stuckey had a particularly funny role as a neighbor who was kind of had designs on Dean's Brown character, who was the guy who'd been married for 50 years and everything like that. But a really, really very good production, and Cindy Brown directed it, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Who else was in that show? I'm trying to remember.
Well, I can't tell you everybody. Jeff Reedy, Connie Blick. Thomas Brown. Yes. Yeah. And then... oh my gosh! Now her name escapes me. She just did the plays, The Thing at
Chris. It wasn't.
No, Linda. I can't think of Linda's last. Linda. I'm sorry. Linda Reddick. Yes, yeah. Linda Reddick, Dean Brown. I'm missing somebody. I know I am, and I apologize. But those are the majority, I would say, of the actors. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So after that, we're going to jump back to community players for Neil Simon's Rumors, directed by Rich Tenaglia. We were in Seattle the week this ran, so I was not able to see it.
Thank God I'm here.
I know. I'm slacking. We had a lot of events this year, folks.
Where is the level of commitment? That's what I would like to know.
I just need to... my goodness. Anywho, sorry, tangent. What did you think of the show? I know the show, and I know a lot of people in the cast.
I liked the show. I will say this. I think Neil Simon is getting dated, and I think you really have to read the play well and go like, how is this going to go over in 2023? And I didn't think it went over as well as it would have in 1983.
Fair enough. Yeah. I completely agree with that statement. Yeah. I really do.
But I will say this. Okay, a farce. One of the things that are most important is a good set of doors, because there's a lot of door slamming, and that set had very good doors. There was a lot of really good door slamming going on in that.
Excellent.
So yes,
I love door slamming. All right, and then we're gonna go back to ISU with a production that you had mentioned earlier, Princess Fearless by Keitha B, directed by Jimmy Chrisman. Again,
I had absolutely no intention of seeing it, and and Jimmy sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, would you come and see this?" And I was like, "Well, I can come to a final dress," which is what I did, and it was really just a great. The message was great, but it wasn't like clubbing you over the head with it kind of thing. And the cast was just wonderful, and that space and the ISU Performing Arts thing. It's so big, right? But they had built like a huge rainbow in it and really used the space well. And again, Duncan Borkholder played a dog who, like, basically made of mop heads, I think. And his costume was.
Looking at the photos,
And he was, Duncan, if you're listening, you're great as a dog. I really bought you as a dog. So it was a great production. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, I wish I would have seen it. I do know that, and I'm not exactly sure how Jimmy did it, but I know there was like a night geared towards children that was
I think the whole reason they did it at that time was it was Parents and Siblings Weekend at ISU with the idea that was something that you could bring younger kids to see.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's good to know. I was wondering about that. Okay, you might have to help me on the pronunciation of this next show. Because it's not one that I am familiar with, but it was done at Wesleyan, directed by Tom Quinn.
Mauritius. Oh, that was a very good one. Yes. It has to do with these two sisters that I can't remember if their mother dies or father dies, but they have this stamp collection, and they have this stamp from Mauritius with this, like, an island off Africa or whatever, and it's the most valuable stamp in the world or whatever. And there's like this kind of con game going on as the sisters, at least one sister, is trying to sell the stamp and everything like that. It's a really suspenseful play, and it's also a really physical play. Heartland did it about 10 or 12 years ago. And there's a point where, like, and it's a male actor, jumps on top of a female actor and is, like, throttling her, right? Like, seriously choking her on the stage and everything before another character throws him off of her. But, I mean, it's the fight choreography and everything with it is pretty intense, and they did a very good job. Good. Again, another production in the Black Box that they did at Wesleyan.
Awesome. Next up would be Frankenstein at ISU, written by Alexander Utz, I believe is how you pronounce the last name, directed by MFA directing student John McCall Jr. I am going to read the synopsis for this one. So this one is an adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic in which the story of Frankenstein is interwoven with elements of Shelley's own life and the origin of the Frankenstein legend. Perhaps the monsters we conjure are not always as inhuman as they seem. There is a character of Mary Shelley in this show. And before we start getting into like reviews, I want to mention, and I don't know if I'm going to say his name right, but Brandon Ngijimana, who played the monster, also played Nugget in Equus. And let me tell you, his physicality is incredible to see on stage. Portraying a horse and a monster, I'm sure are not easy feats. And everything I have seen that individual do is
when
amazing.
He came to life in Frankenstein, the audience was just in rapt attention. Follow everything he was doing, right? And then he was trying to climb some stairs and everything like that. And it was just quiet. I mean, the audience was just, he completely had them.
Yeah.
He was great.
And that was in Westhoff, so it's that small space.
Small space.
You are right up on the actors. What were your thoughts on Frankenstein?
Well, first I want to give an apology to John McCall, who was the director, because in the review I wrote Jim McCall. John, I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote that. I do apologize for that. So, a fellow John should know better than do something like that. I liked the production to a degree. It wasn't one of my favorite things that I saw this year, but I did like the fact that Mary Shelley is incorporated into the story. And she is like, telling her friends, and then Byron Shelley is there and everything like that. So it was good. And the lighting design and sound design were really, really good.
I would agree. I don't want to say the set confused me. Confused is not the right word, but it wasn't what I was expecting.
The downstage pieces did sometimes I wasn't quite sure what they were supposed to be at certain points. So,
I agree. Yeah, something was just...
But upstage, the upper level of that, I really liked that a lot.
All right, we're just on a kick of collegiate productions right now, so we are going to go back over to Wesleyan with Carrie the Musical, directed by Scott Susong, and I'm obsessed with the movie. What's the musical like?
The musical is actually very good. Okay. It actually on Broadway. It's like one of the biggest bombs around, I guess, in history.
Heard that.
Yeah, and Robert and I went to see it, and because I think Nancy Brokaw reviewed it, and we actually saw it in a black box theater down at Millikan University several years ago. They did it down there, and the thing is, if you're far enough away from the movie, Sissy Spacek and all that. It's a great show because you don't have all those special effects in your head about, they did this in the movie and everything like that. You don't know, right? The only thing that you know is that blood is going to get poured on her at some point. So you are just kind of like anticipating that, right? When's the blood going to happen? What's going to happen, right? But exceptional production. Scott did a fantastic job. And I just love, and I've told him this, his transitions from scene to scene are just so creative. I mean, the show never stops for a set change or anything like that. And
I love that.
He's got the students like marching out in formation with their desk and doing this kind of flourish, and as they set their desk down, it's just always a little bit of performance, and he's never forgetting that the audience is watching it. It doesn't matter that the fact that you're going from one scene to another, and then the very end of the first act is basically Carrie confronting her mother because her mother's like, no, you're not going to the prom. And Carrie finally finds her gumption or whatever. Yes, I am. Well, they're having their dessert, right? And Carrie's got this piece of pie in front of her. And she uses her telekinesis to mess up her mom or whatever, and kind of that's that, right? I'm going to the prom or whatever, and then sits down and eats the pie. And I said to Scott, that was just perfect. That she now I'm going to finish my pie.
It's like, damn it.
I would encourage every college to do it now because you're so far removed from the book and the movie were around 76, 77, so long ago. Nobody remembers anymore of that stuff.
All right, let's jump back to ISU with what I'm assuming might be one of your favorites, with The Addams Family, directed by Maggie Marlin Hess, who also directed Men on Boats, and Dr. Matthew Valla, who directed Hansel and Gretel.
And kudos to them for. I just think co-directing would be something that would be very hard to do.
It is. As someone who's done it, you have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but you have to really know your niche to be able to play off of each other. I think.
Right, because I have not directed a lot, but when I've directed, it's just been me. I haven't had to you can bounce things off of your assistant director, and absolutely you should, right? But in terms of trying to get consensus between the two, I would think that'd be challenging sometimes, But what a production! I mean, we too often say oh, what a fun show, but it was such a fun show in the absolute best way. So entertaining.
The Renzo, who played Gomez, and Bibi Marzano, I think is how you say her last name, as Morticia. I know they double cast Wednesday. Forgive me as I cannot remember who either of the Wednesdays were. And then Andrew Short, like we mentioned, who played Pugsley. And Hannah Close is Grandma. Grandma is just
what a fun role that is. Yes.
Right? And then one of my friends, Michael Graves, played Lurch. And then, of course, Lorelai Renecki as Alice and Parker Doherty as Mal Beinecke. It was.
We're missing somebody.
We are.
Who tells the story?
Fester.
Fester, yes, Uncle
Jalen
Fester.
Golden.
Yeah, okay.
And then Lucas. I can see his face. Logan something.
Yeah, I think I saw him in a free stage production of Your Good Man Charlie Brown this past spring.
Okay.
So yeah, but Lurch, he told this story, right, with just sound effects. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that part in it?
Yeah.
It was so good, and the audience loved it. They just ate it up. But Renzo was just, I think I said this in my review, he was really transcendent because he took a comical role and he gave depth to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, that you really, in that second act, bought that he was a father just trying to do the best that he could do. And, with this daughter and wife, what the hell was he supposed to do, right?
Exactly. He's like stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly.
And, I mean, everything I know we're praising on Renzo, but Renzo truly is an amazing actor.
He really is one to watch. Yeah. Seriously. He really is.
His performance as Clyde in Bonnie and Clyde also blew me away.
My God, I love that show. I love that show.
I had no idea he could sing. And I heard him open his mouth, and I was like, what?
And then there was at least one time where he gets a ukulele and just sits there and plays, and it's so good. Yeah. And I just, I said it was just serendipity when he did that. It was just wonderful.
And even it was, I don't remember if it was spring or fall semester of my first year of grad school. He was in a production directed by Paul Christopher called Sueño. And that is probably, as a straight play, playing an imprisoned man who realizes he's heir to a throne. His acting is just incredible, and then he really is a triple threat. I feel like.
I agree.
Keep an eye out for Renzo, y'all.
Yep,
He's
absolutely
great. But everyone in that show had phenomenal vocal chops, and Lorelai, who played Alice, she played the witch in Hansel and Gretel. Yeah.
Well, if you missed the Addams Family, you really missed something. Yeah, you really missed something good.
It was a superb show. Yeah. Let's move on. We're going to jump over to Heartland. We're going to go to Bloomsday by Stephen Dietz, directed by Sandy Zielinski.
I saw it early on to review it, and then my apologies to the actors. I did not write the names down. The young woman that played the young woman in it, because they're the same character, younger, older, 2 women and 2 men, right? And there was just this wonderful part in the second act where the young man tells her, how wonderful he thinks she is, whatever, and you can just tell that no one's ever said anything like that to her before, and I wanted to see that expression on her face again, so I came and saw it a second time, and darn it, don't you know that the actor, where I sought to sit, the male actor that was telling her that line, he blocked my view of her, so I couldn't see it. But it was really good, and the fact that I saw it twice, I don't see a lot of things twice.
Yeah, I don't either. Reese and Gail touched base on it in my interview with them for Heartland, and it's a really interesting show. Well, here, I have a synopsis in front of me. Taking its title from the commemoration and celebration of the life of Irish writer James Joyce, this unapologetically romantic play follows Dubliner Kathleen's unexpected encounter with Robbie, a young man from Renton, Washington, moving forward and backward through time over the course of 35 years. We watch as the 2 dreamers' paths intersect, daring them to confess their true feelings for each other. Time travel and paths intersecting.
Yeah. I mean, one, you just have to let go in the beginning and be on board with it, because if you're the type of person that goes, well, that doesn't make sense. He was here, kind of thing. But also, the lighting design helped a lot. Like, kind of signaling, well, this is where we are, and now something has changed, and we've gone back, and the blocking changed and everything like that, right? So you weren't really confused. I mean, the only thing you were kind of confused was, well, what was all this in her mind? And, you weren't really sure, but just a delightful production, and John Stark did the set design on it. And there were, legitimate cobblestone street on the stage, like
John
just
has
a
some
little,
sets.
a little wedge of Dublin that had been set down in Heartland Theatre.
We're in that November time slot where we had Bloomsday open on November 2nd and Airness at Coalescence open on November 3rd, with Fiddler opening the exact same day. So let's touch base on Airness first, since it did just run for one weekend. That was with Coalescence Theater Project by Chelsea Marchantel, directed by Don Chandro. That fell over the weekend of my birthday. So I did not see that one, but I saw the photos, and Don talked a lot about the show in my interview with him for Coalescence. Was that when you were able to see?
That was not. Was that at Normal Theater? Is that where they did it?
Yes, that one was at Normal Theater, and I know prior to it, they had like an air guitar competition.
Yes, to kind of prime people for it. Yeah,
exactly. So let me just read you here. When Nina enters her first air guitar competition, she thinks winning will be easy. But as she befriends a group of charismatic nerds all committed to becoming the next champion, she discovers that there's more to this art form than playing pretend. It's about finding yourself in your favorite songs and performing with raw joy. Will Nina be able to let go and set herself free on stage? Following her mission to shred or be shredded, Airness is an exuberant reminder that everything we need to rock is already inside us.
And I have it on good authority. I can't give my sources, but there will be like an encore performance of it in January or February at the Bistro. So follow Coalescence on Facebook for the dates, because as far as I know right now, the date has not been decided.
Okay.
Just that it's going to be in the first couple months of 2024.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So yeah, same thing. November 3rd, opening. Classic Fiddler on the Roof at Community Players Theater, directed by Bruce and Kathy Parrish.
Tradition.
So I, like most people, was in this show in high school. I feel like everyone was in this show.
I was in the last Community Players production of it, which was 2007, maybe.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
It was Modka, the innkeeper.
Okay. Was that? I think that was that. John,
That was John.
Leader?
Yeah. John Leader was this time.
Must be. One thing that this isn't really like pertaining to the show specifically, but one thing that I really enjoyed was the show had Scott Myers, it had Pat Geik, who have previously played Model, the Tailor.
Yeah, the Tailor, that's right, yeah.
Scott played the Rabbi and Pat Geik played Tevye this time around. I thought it was really cool, and I know like Opal Virtue was in this production. So it had some...
It was very Circle of Life for several actors. Yeah,
definitely. What were your thoughts on it?
I enjoyed it. Pat really did a great job as Tevye, and it's just a great show. You know, I mean, it stands
classic.
the test of time, because I think it opened in '64 or something like that.
Definitely.
So I mean, it's been around for a long, long time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Jasmine Brooke. I think is how she's credited in the program. She played Hava. And I feel like Hava is kind of the daughter that everyone forgets about.
Is she Hava the third daughter?
Hava's the third daughter, the one who is with Fiedka.
Right.
And I'm not really a big fan of
Yes, I remember her now. She did really do a good job. Yeah, as the third daughter.
I thought she did a great job as Hava. I'm not really a big fan of, oh, woe is me, crying princess on the floor. But her emotion was very believable.
And she doesn't get like a good song like the second daughter gets at the train station.
Right.
You know?
She doesn't get that. So she really has to have that moment where Tevye pretty much just says, I've given up too much with, Seidel and Hodel.
So who is she? Is she new to theater?
So she is actually a student at ISU.
Oh, okay.
She actually, if I have the correct person, which I believe I do, she played the nurse in Equus.
Oh, all right.
So I think she is a sophomore this year. Jasmine, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I believe she's a sophomore this year.
Well done, Jasmine.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. Seidel played by Vicky Snyder and Hodel played by Mina Williams-Rodriguez. And Pat Geik played Tevye, as we said. And then Clara Varlisi, I believe is how you say her last name. I was super excited to see her because she was originally cast in Jesus Christ Superstar. Unfortunately, she had to drop for personal reasons. So I was so happy to see her name on that cast list. The one complaint, if you will, I would say that I had is, and you mentioned it with Carrie, is I think transitions can make or break a show.
Yes.
And I do feel like there was some downtime. I don't know if there were like maybe music transitions that could have been incorporated to maybe make the transition of the house or the bed.
Yeah, I saw the pay what you can, and it was a little sluggish.
Yeah.
But that I just chalked that up to the fact that it was, it was basically the last dress rehearsal kind of thing. Yeah.
I want to say we saw it the third Saturday. Yeah, we saw.
Oh, so it was pretty far along.
Yeah, it was pretty far along, and I mean that was honestly my biggest complaint is I think transitions could have improved, and there were some scenes where I thought maybe space wasn't utilized as much as it could have been. Whether it was too many people on stage at one time, too stage heavy at some points, I don't know. That might
I would
I
would like to see a stripped down Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah,
because I just don't think you need all the sets and everything like that.
I don't think you do
People
either.
know the story, and the story is so compelling.
Yeah.
That just doing it in a minimalist setting would be so cool.
No, I think I thought the vocals were incredible. I thought the acting was good. But yeah, that was the biggest thing for me was I just thought transitions and space could have been maybe if they even had another week of rehearsal, maybe just to fine tune those out and stuff. We've got just a few more here. We're going to go back to the final ISU show of the season, which was How to Clean Your Room and Remember All Your Trauma by Jay Chavez, directed by MFA graduate student. I'm sorry. She is a graduate student. MFA directing student, Al Altmans. This is about Spencer, who begins to clean their room and reflect on their relationships with the people around them. Who can and can't we control in our lives? Does caring mean anything beyond words? And does infatuation go both ways? A play in 2 cycles with anxiety, depression, and puppets.
We can't beat puppets.
Right? We can't beat puppets. Did you have a chance to see this one?
I did not. However, had I known there were puppets, maybe I would have made more of an effort to get out there.
So I did not have a chance to see it either. I know it. I believe it's actually I think it's considered a comedy.
Is it?
I think
to
so.
me, it looked like serious drama. But
yeah, I feel like I might have to text Al when this is done. But I feel like I seen a Facebook post that they had done somewhere that about like, yes, it talks about trauma, but it's meant to like shine some light on it. So I don't know if comedy's the right word, dramedy. It's lighter than people think it is.
All right.
I'll say it that way. And then final show of Wesleyan season was The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster, directed by Dr. Michelle Gibbs. Did you have a chance to see this one?
I did. That was something. I enjoyed it. It's it's a tragedy, very much kind of in the Shakespeare mold. So lots of people die, particularly in the second act. Yeah. But oh my gosh, the set was so cool. They used visqueen, kind of like clear plastic all the way around it. It was in the Jerome Mirza, so it was the main stage. Yeah, and the lighting was just incredible. So the whole thing, I really did enjoy it, and I went in totally not knowing what to expect at all, which I try to do if I'm reviewing something. If I already know the show, I know the show. I can't help that. But if I'm not familiar with it, or whatever, I don't really do any pre-research or anything like that, because I just want it to strike me as is. As is. Yeah. And I really did enjoy it. And I've seen a couple of things that Dr. Gibbs has done over there and really like it. She's a really good director.
Good.
So, yeah.
Awesome. All right, and then to wrap up with our holiday shows, the first one was with the Holiday Spectacular Incorporated, The Holiday Spectacular.
The Holiday Spectacular.
The script by Nancy Steele Brokaw and directed once again by Laurie Adams. Did you have a chance to see Holiday Spectacular?
Well, I told you, I said, I'm not going to see any of those shows, and then I saw all those shows. So I saw Holiday Spectacular, I saw Holiday on Robin Hood Lane. Nancy's script this year, as always, hilarious. She did a take on A Christmas Carol, and Kristen Monson was Carol Scrooge.
Kristen Monson, let me tell you, that woman, I worship the ground she walks on.
Well, she has good comedic chops,
she does.
Right? But then she's got this voice that's just like, what? I know. So they really utilized her to her absolute best in that show.
She was phenomenal. I mean, Robert Mangialardi, always a stage presence. Scott Myers, I just think is the cutest human. I love Scott Myers.
Can we just talk about his schedule the last part of this year? He was doing Fiddler. Holiday Spectacular, and Holiday and Robin Hood. And then like the week after that, I went to the David Davis Mansion, and he was portraying Santa Claus over there. I'm like, oh my God, you are a glutton for punishment.
Oh my gosh, Scott, talk about. I think I said this with Lori Adams in my interview with her. You ever want to learn time management? Do theater.
Yeah, exactly, and talk to them about it. Yeah,
do theater if you ever want to learn time management skills. I want to give a shout out to John Stark. John always does gorgeous sets, but I loved that. I don't know if it was a backdrop. I don't know what he did to like have all the buildings with like little jewels and Rob Dogs.
Yeah, I'm not, nothing to take away from John. I don't. Some of that stuff they've had a long time, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
But John definitely does these sets that are like stage right and stage left. You know, which was like Carol Scrooge's apartment, and then there was a bar, on the other side. So
good deal.
That's definitely John. Yeah.
No, I think John does incredible sets. I loved his set for Fairview.
But that backdrop you're talking about is really smart because what they do is their sponsors, if they give a certain level of money, they get their name on that backdrop.
So it's like the Pantograph, Rob Dobbs, Little Jewels,
State Farm,
exactly. That was. So I'm gonna get a little emotional here. So I just lost my grandma on Christmas Day this year, and we're still coping. But I do just want to mention, she actually took me to the Holiday Spectacular the very first year they did it with the Pantograph. I think I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen the show in a very long time, and I saw it again this year.
Did you?
I did. And I don't know. That's very sentimental for me to think about. That was really my first exposure to live theater, was that, and I got to experience that with her. I came back this year to do it, and then
maybe another one of those full circle moments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thank you, Harriet Fager. We love you. As I start crying. Anyway, sorry. And then to wrap it up, Holiday on Robin Hood Lane. Original script written by Maggie Borkholder and assistant playwright Marston Harmon, and directed by Matt Dratt. Different than last year's Holiday on Robin Hood Lane. They used the whole set last year. This year they kept it in front of the Grand, just due to the set that was needed for 12 Angry Jurors that's going to be coming up. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, a shout out to Matt for dealing with the fact that everything was in front of the Grand.
That's
and
a
he
lot.
had a big ass cast that he had to get on and off of there.
It was 30-something people.
Yes, and so I felt for him.
Yeah,
but I mean, they did a really good job with it, of getting on and off and things. But it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember if there was a through line script last year. Do you remember if there was?
It seemed more like a variety show is the wrong way to say it, but there wasn't like a linkage. Yeah,
right.
To the whole thing.
I almost feel like maybe there was like a narrator transition thing, but it doesn't feel like there was a story. This year they definitely really focused on memories of home and family, and they really tried to incorporate different December celebrations.
And then they had that original composition at the beginning by, is it Dave Shields? David Shields, did he write that?
Oh, Dave Davenport.
Dave Davenport, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Called Memories from Home. Yes, it was an original song that they recorded with a local recording studio here in town. And I think they sold the song as a fundraiser. I'm not sure if you can still buy it. I'm sure you probably can. Yes, definitely big cast. I think the youngest person in the show was 3 years old.
I believe so.
Yeah, her little blonde pigtail. She was so cute. But yeah, it was great to have so many community players, people back, and even have new people. Nakia Rice, who was one of the main actresses, kind of starts the show with her and Trey Campbell coming in.
Oh, she was one of the kids.
Yeah,
I mean, adult children.
Right,
then.
adult children coming back to Aunt Terry and Uncle Rich's house. She was in Once on This Island, and she played Asaka and pipes. Oh my gosh, amazing singer. I thought it was a cute production overall. I'm a sucker for Polar Express, so that tap number, I loved it. I think for me, I'm going to go a little bit back to Fiddler, and I know they were limited on space, but I think transitions could have been improved a little bit with that one. but that was really, again, my biggest complaint. Like, I thought vocals were great. I thought the song choice was good. Also a sucker for Susie Snowflake.
I was going to say the Susie Snowflake number stands out to me.
Like, it was so cute in their little tutus. And of course, Lyric.
Was Lyric the one that,
Yeah,
did
she
that?
was on point for the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, it was a really cute show. So yeah, I think we wrapped that up pretty good. We're sitting at about 90 minutes.
I was say I can see Eli pulling his hair out. Like, this is really too long. We're going to break this down into 2 parts.
No. Well, we knew this one was going to kind of be long. We had to touch on 36 shows. And I mean, I wish I had kept track, but I want to say maybe only 2 productions neither one of us saw.
Perhaps. I wasn't keeping track either.
I know. So let's break down the second half here. Of that second half, I know you said you had some categories. What were some of your favorites?
Okay, well, so of my straight plays for the community, both of those were in the second half of the year.
Okay.
My first runner-up was Bloomsday, the Ulysses play from Heartland. And then the best, what I enjoyed, was Grand Horizons, Cindy Brown's production there. And so for community musical, my first runner-up was Bright Star by Scott Susong. And then what I considered the best musical community was Newsies, what Marsha Weiss directed.
Awesome.
And then for college, probably no surprise here, Carrie was my first runner-up. Addams Family was what I considered the best college musical this year.
Shout out to Scott Susong again.
Yeah,
Scott,
he pulled some 2-time mentioned. Scott and Maggie Marlon Hess both got mentioned twice. So
there we go. Yeah. So January to December of 2023, John, do you have a favorite overall show? Yeah. I
would say it would probably come down to either Murder on the Orient Express or The Addams Family.
Okay.
One of those.
So ISU coming in clutch over here. So
it's really an embarrassment of riches to live in this town, particularly with ISU and Wesleyan, and the productions they put on.
Yeah, who both have phenomenal theater programs.
Yes, absolutely.
So many alums coming out of both of the schools. Not me doing my hair flip over here for when I'm, a famous casting director. But no, I think that's fantastic. I would probably definitely have to put Addams Family up there as well. Addams Family, Murder on the Orient Express, and I did not think I was going to like Newsies because I don't like Newsies. Like it's not a show I'm intrigued by, and I don't know if it's because I knew so many people in the cast, but that choreography and the vocals just.
I think for me, I
came
into it like, how are they going to pull this off? Because I had seen it at the Legacy in Springfield maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
Fantastic production, right? I mean, like, I would consider it kind of like Drury Lane quality, kind of thing.
Awesome.
And so I was like, well, community players, will it be as good? And it, it was different, but it was very, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, really was. And those kind of shows, sometimes they just bring the people out of the woodwork to audition that you think, where am I going to find this person, right? And boy, they come. They show up, don't they?
Yeah, and especially those summer shows, you get all of the people coming back from school who maybe either didn't book summer stock, decided they didn't want to do summer stock, and then we get them.
Exactly.
So that's how a lot of people came out. So any shows that have been announced for 2024 that you're looking forward to seeing?
Wesleyan is doing the Scarlet Pimpernel, I think, in March or April, I believe. So I'm looking forward to that. And Community Players is doing Mary Poppins, I believe, in the summer. So that should be interesting. Yeah. And then Young Frankenstein, which I've seen a couple times, very, very funny show, which is coming up as well.
You should audition for that show.
I may.
I think you should audition for that show. We all know I'm a sucker for Mary Poppins. Got a tattoo of Dick Van Dyke for that exact reason.
Is that Erica O'Neill that's going to be directing that?
Okay, she is directing that. That will be, I'm not sure if it's her overall directorial debut, but it is her directorial debut at Community Players. Tackling a monster.
Yes.
She was my assistant director when I directed Joseph, which was my directorial debut. We like to tackle big shows.
I was going to say, why start small?
Right, exactly. Go big or go home. Cast of 59 people for that one. I'm very excited to do that show. I'm dramaturging Mary Poppins, and I'm very excited for people to see the history of Cherry Tree Lane, book to movie to stage. it's going to be really cool, and I'm excited for people to see that. So yeah, Mary Poppins definitely up there for me. I can't say it yet, but the Summer Youth show.
It's going to be great. We can't tell you what it is, but oh my gosh.
And then not a theater that we mentioned, but I'm also very excited. I get the privilege of choreographing Mean Girls for U-High. Ooh. And I'm super excited to see how that show comes together.
You've just made me think that there was. I want to mention Me Opera's production in June of Pirates of Penzance, which was really, really good. So they did that at BCPA. So that
I was wondering where
thing.
they performed that. I completely forgot about that one. Not really a show, but I'm going to be setting up some time to meet with Kristen Monson and Connie Blitt because I know Nomad Theater has a lot of really cool stuff coming up.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be a fun season.
I think they have like a really big announcement, which is kind of why they haven't been on the radar for about the last year. Yeah.
So I was supposed to do their interview a couple weeks ago, but COVID. So better safe than sorry. It's fine.
I just hope you don't run out of things to do for your podcast.
I don't.
My God, you've jumped out of the gate like doing 2 a week.
2 a week.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. This past week was the first time we didn't do 2 a week because I'm not posting on Christmas Eve. But yeah, so this one is going up. People will be tuning in on December 31st, which I feel.
So Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year. May your 2024 be full of local live theater.
That's right. Support local live theater.
All right, John. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I know we've been finagling times for the past couple of weeks. We met about this, over a month ago?
I know. And I thought, do we have enough to fill an hour? Way more than that. Yeah,
and that's okay. They're going to enjoy this 90-minute podcast. And
God bless you, everyone that listened to the very end.
Yeah. If you listened to the very end, comment on our Facebook.
Well, there's no prize or anything, but just you have our undying gratitude for staying till the bitter end.
Yeah. Okay. On this post, comment a photo of a penguin to let us know that you listened to the full thing. I love penguins, and I want to see who made it to the whole thing. But all right, John, anything you would like to add before we wrap it up?
I have nothing to add.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully we get to do this again next year, and our listeners will have tripled. It'll be epic. So, all right, everyone, stay tuned for the next episode, and thank you again, John. Have a good night.
You too.